Do you know who your club's most important hometown heroes are? Well, in this video, I'm going to highlight some of the local boys' names that you should remember. I'm Curtis and you're watching A.F.C. Curtis, your home for all things Canadian Premier League content right here on YouTube. So if you're new here, maybe consider hitting that red subscribe button. For Canadians, by Canadians. That is a mantra that Canadian Premier League likes to use a lot to describe their league. And in this episode, I'm going to show you exactly the local boys that you should know for each and every one of the clubs in the Canadian Premier League. These are the guys that are either born in that city that's hosting a club or born around that area. These are players that are locally signed, that are brought up through the system and through that area, that these players and these fans supporting those clubs should really get behind and know. Now we're going to start things off here on the West Coast with Pacific FC and their goalkeeper, Nolan Worth. Now this is the only, as of the recording of this video, the only Vancouver Island product signed to Pacific FC, a club which is located on Vancouver Island. And this goalkeeper has actually been tearing things up on the island since the age of 12 years old as a goalkeeper, which is incredible. He's actually played in the NCAA soccer scene. He's played with the Vancouver Whitecaps residency program and has recently even started in 2017 with Phoenix Rising down in the USL. So I mean, this guy's been all over the place. He's on the rise. He's only 24 years old. You know, that's pretty young for a goalkeeper, and I know right now it might look like he might be backing up Mark Village there at Pacific FC, but I think in the long term I actually see Nolan Worth as the starter, and a pretty strong starter at that for the Pacific FC club. He's played with Canada at the U16, U18 and U20 level, so this goalkeeper is somebody you should definitely take note of. Next up, we got Calgary FC in the city of Calgary, and they actually have two local boy heroes that you should be aware of. The first one is actually just recently signed, and that's forward Malik Hamilton. Now, the 19-year-old is coming over from actually Toronto FC, where he played last year. He played in their system. He played with Toronto FC 2 and Toronto FC 3. As well as before that, he actually spent quite a few years in England with the West Ham United Academy program there. So he's coming up through those ranks. He's only 19 years old, so this signing is more of a long-term signing and a long-term build. But you should definitely remember his name because I think he's one of those guys that manager Tommy Wilden Jr. is going to look at as a future star in the league, and then a possibly future, you know, big transfer fee down the line to go back to Europe or somewhere else for a big payday for Calgary FC. So that's a big name you should definitely keep your lookout for, as well as goalkeeper Marco Carducci is the other one who's Calgary born and will probably be the starter for the club this year or even next year. But I do think he'll actually not only be the starter but will be one of the better goalies in the league. He's played with Canada U17, U18, U20 clubs, as well as, you know, he's played with the Calgary Foothill system. So he's actually really well known in the city of Calgary as well as with Tommy Wilden Jr.'s system. So I definitely think that Carducci is going to be a starter there. So in the short term as well as long term, he's going to be a big part of that club, whereas Hamilton will be more of a long-term project. But these are two players and two names in Calgary that you should definitely keep a lookout for, because these are guys that are on the rise. Next up, we got the other half of the El Clasico rivalry with FC Edmonton and their two hometown heroes. The first one being Alan Zabi and the other one being Randy Edwini Bonsu. Now, I know what you're going to say. They're not from Edmonton. They weren't born in Edmonton, but they're still kind of homegrown heroes because they're actually both moved over from other countries to the city of Edmonton at a really young age. So they grew up in the Edmonton area and playing with Edmonton local clubs growing up. Therefore, I think that kind of qualifies them as, you know, local boys and local hometown heroes for the city of Edmonton. And the first one here is Alan Zabi, and I think he's going to be a great product here. He's really young, about early mid-20s. He's a right back. He actually played up through the FC Edmonton Academy and into the first team back in the old NASL days, and now is here for the 2019 season for the Canadian Premier League's version of FC Edmonton. So this guy's a guy that I think is going to be a really big, major part of the club moving forward, not only in the short term, but in the long term, and will be a household name in Edmonton in no time. Now, the other guy here we have is Randy Edwini Bonsu. Now, this guy is going to be fantastic for them. He's going to be one of the key cogs in Jeff Polis's machine here in Edmonton. He's going to be there. He's going to be everywhere. I believe he's wearing the number 10 shirt, and usually players that wear the number 10 shirt have a lot of pressure on their shoulders, and this Randy Edwini Bonsu, remember the name because he's going to be one of your stars in the city of Edmonton. Has played with Canada at every level you can imagine. has played in Europe, has played all over the world, so he's coming back at just 28 years old with a bunch of experience. Look for him to be one of the rising stars and one of the bigger stars in the Canadian Premier League. Next up here, we got the city of Winnipeg and their club Valor FC. Now, Winnipeg, of course, has a bunch of players already on the Valor FC roster for 2019. So I'm just going to touch on about 3 of them here that you should definitely know the name of. You should know the name of all of them, especially if you're a Valor FC fan. But these are 3 guys that are going to be huge stars for sure in my books in the Canadian Premier League and for the Canadian men's national team in the future, quite possibly. And the first one here is actually going to be Dylan Carrero, who I think is going to be a huge star. He's only in his early 20s and he's already got a huge resume with him. He's Valor FC's first round pick in the 2018 youth sports draft, and is somebody I think in the long term will be a big signing for a club outside of Canada. So I think Rob Gale has a future star, not only in the CPL but abroad in the making right here with Dylan Carrero. Next up here we got Ali Musi, and this guy is a good, young, talented player. I believe will actually be a starter for Valor FC in 2019 and will actually be a big part of that club. He was part of a good championship team in 2018 with the Calgary Foothills, and as somebody who's well-traveled now at such a young age in his early 20s, but he's from Winnipeg. He's a good local boy. He's going to be a local hero in 2019 and beyond for Valor FC, so make sure you remember the name Ali Musi, because he's probably going to be the guy that's going to chip in the game-winning goal that wins them the championship in the next couple of years. So make sure you watch out for that name. Now, the third player I'm going to mention for Valor FC supporters to watch out for is goalkeeper Tyson Farrago. And I'm not just saying this because I had him on the show a few weeks ago. You can check out that interview down in the description below. But I'm saying this because he's actually a really good goalkeeper. I think he's one of the top goalkeepers in the league right now, as well as, every championship club needs a good, strong goaltender to start up for them. And I think the 27-year-old will be a major starter for the Valor FC club here, and I think will be a big part. If they do win a championship, he'll be a big part of that team. So I think Rob Gale really lucked out to have a nice local homegrown player like Tyson Farrago to sign for Valor FC. I think Valor FC has loads and loads of other great Winnipeg-born talent besides these 3, but definitely watch out for these 3 names in 2019. Next up here we got Forge FC, and with their players, they don't have any Hamilton-born players on their roster as of the making of this video, but I'm going to go with the player that grew up closest to the city of Hamilton, and that is midfielder Kyle Becker. Now, when you hear the name Kyle Becker and you're a Canadian Premier League fan, you automatically associate him with being one of the better players in the league, and that's why you should watch out for him. I do think he's an MVP candidate in 2019 or even in 2020. If you did, delay it a little bit, I think he will get called up again to the Canadian men's national team at some point here, just because of how good he will be in the Canadian Premier League. I think he'll elevate the club. I think he'll be a great leader on and off the pitch for Forge FC. So you got to watch out for him. This guy's played in the MLS, he's played in the USL. He doesn't have to come and play in the CPL. He could play other places, but he decided to take his talents to Hamilton and to Forge FC. So make sure you appreciate that and you buy those Kyle Becker jerseys and you watch out for him, because he is going to be probably the best player in the CPL. Now from Forge FC, we're going to move on down to York 9 FC, and with their big center back, Luca Gasparotto. So make sure you remember that name because he's from North York region, so he is, a local boy quite clearly versus all the Toronto players that they have signed there. But this is a guy who spent the last couple of years playing over in Scotland, so he doesn't really maybe need to come over the Canadian Premier League, but I do think it's best for his career that he does come over the Canadian Premier League, because now he's going to get a lot of first team minutes, he's going to get a lot of action. I think he's going to be heavily relied on over at Jamie Brennan's squad. He's going to be a regular in that starting 11, and he's going to be a big star in the Canadian Premier League. He's going to be one of the top center backs, I think, right off the bat here in 2019 at such a young age too. At 24 years old, could you imagine? He's only going to develop. He's not even really in the prime of his center back career yet too. So I mean, this kid's going to be on the rise. He's played with Canada at almost every level except for the men's national team level, which I do think he will get a call up eventually one of these days because of his play in the Canadian Premier League. So make sure you watch out for Luca Gasparotto over at York 9 FC. We're going to move over to the East Coast here with the Halifax Wanderers now to finish up here. And they got 2 players, 2 local products that they have signed currently to their roster. The first one being goalkeeper Christian Oxner. And I think this player is going to be backing up John Michael Williams for at least a short term, just because, Williams probably, in my books at least, one of the better, if not the best goalkeeper in the Canadian Premier League. But I think Oxner is going to be really good backup. He's going to get a few minutes. He's going to definitely start a few games this season, I do believe. as he continues to develop under Stephen Hart's system. And in the long term, I do see him as a starter for the club. Possibly right after Jean-Michael Williams' time as a starter, Oxner will probably be the next one called up. So, I mean, that's a good local boy you should keep your eyes peeled for in Halifax. And the other one is midfielder Scott Firth, who is, only a teenager. He's only 17, not yet 18 years old. He's still in high school, just finishing up, but he's already competing for a spot on, on the Wanderers, lineup, which is incredible. When I was 17 years old, I was at home on the couch playing FIFA and, eating KD every Saturday. That was what I was doing at 17. What he's doing at 17 is competing for a spot on Division 1 pro soccer club in Canada. I mean, that's incredible stuff. At such a young age, he's got a great, a long-term, development plan, I'm sure, for him in Halifax. I don't see him as a starter in the starting 11 on a regular basis in 2019, but in 4 or 5 years, or even sooner, possibly even in 3 years, he could be a major player for the Halifax midfield system. So Scott Firth, make sure you watch out for his name, as well as Christian Oxner. Those two players, Halifax-born players, are going to be your two hometown heroes for you Halifax Wonder fans out there. So that was my video this week, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comment section below which players are your favorite hometown heroes that I just listed. And is there any hometown heroes I might have missed? Let me know down in the comment section below. And of course, if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. And if you want to see more content just like this about the Canadian Premier League, maybe consider hitting that red subscribe button. And of course, you can also watch my videos not just here on YouTube, but over at northernstarting11.com. I'll have a link for that website down in the description below. So check them out. Bunch of great soccer podcasts there, all revolving around the great game in Canada. So make sure you check them out. And of course, until next time, thank you for watching.